Hello and welcome to a video where I talk about Halo Infinite for a certain length of time, while also showing you how it runs. I'm playing this on a AMD 5700 XT with an i7 9700K and 32GB of CL16 3200 MHz RAM. I am using Digital Foundry's optimized settings, with the exception of not using the dynamic resolution scaling setting because it looks like a blurry mess with it on. Plus, I also want to show you how it runs at a full 1440p. I should also mention that I'm playing the Game Pass version because I feel like most people are, because you can get it for £1 for a month. And I don't know if that has any performance differences compared to the Steam version or not. Game Pass versions are usually weaker versions. They usually have a lot of stuttering issues, but I think this game has a lot of issues anyway. So Halo Infinite launched on the 8th of December, and my god, it's one of the worst PC ports I've played in a long time. And a lot of the issues can be fixed by one simple setting: limiting the frame rate in the game. Not with Reaver Tuner, in the game. And this completely fixes the high CPU utilization, which seemed to be causing most of my issues. It was causing the game to load incredibly slowly. It was causing the game to crash. It was causing OBS to have huge encoding overloading issues. And how this was left in the game, and still is left in the game, is madness. They seem to be focused on fixing the progression in the multiplayer instead of fixing any of the actual technical issues. And I haven't done a video like this in a very long time, so excuse me if I'm rusty. I don't script these out, they're just free thought, which is why it's all over the place. I think the last one I did was for Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. 2 years ago, exactly, pretty much. So it's been 6 years since we had a last Halo game, and Halo 5 was really bad, really bad. I didn't end up playing it until 2019 because I bought it when it came out and it was so bad I didn't play much of it. And when I finally did play it, it gave me a huge headache. Just playing through the campaign gave me a headache. Possibly the worst Halo campaign. And the multiplayer was okay. If you just played the standard Halo 4v4 Slayer, it was fine, but if you played that new mode with all the microtransactions, then it was not very good at all. I have played pretty much all of the Halo games, apart from Halo Wars 2. However, I have not actually beaten the first Halo game. I got about halfway through it and never actually beat it, but I've beaten Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo ODST, Halo Reach, Halo 4, Halo 5, and Halo Wars. So of the 3 big shooters this year, I think I can say unequivocally, that this is the best one of the 3 big shooters by quite a margin. However, it still has a lot of issues, a lot of problems, technical problems, many story problems. The story in this game is complete and utter bollocks. There isn't really much of it. There's a lot of... It reminds me of Destiny, where there's a lot of talk about stuff that never actually is shown and is just teased. And hopefully, one day, it will be shown off in another game. I would like it to have been shown off in the game I'm currently playing, but oh well. And the game has the most generic names for these new things, these new entities. It's just proper bullshit sci-fi names for everything. No creativity at all. However, the gameplay, I would say, is some of, if not the best Halo gameplay we've ever had. And that could be because I'm playing it on PC, where a shooter just feels a lot better to play. This is the first Halo game I've played on a PC, and it's just a joy to finally be able to aim properly with a mouse. And but everything about the gameplay just feels really good. Guns feel great, however some of the guns are really unbalanced and are basically useless. Like the Ravager. What a rubbish gun that is. The enemies have really great reactions to being shot. They have different animations depending on where they are being hit. And the enemy chatter while you're fighting them is hilarious. And if they kill you, it's even more hilarious. The new grapple shot basically means you can Spider-Man around the place, and it's a lot more movement based now. I played through on legendary difficulty, so it wasn't as easy to move around without just immediately dying. However, I would say this is probably the easiest Halo game on legendary difficulty. It got a bit harder towards the end. The last couple missions were definitely the difficulty I was expecting from legendary, but before that wasn't really that difficult. And I definitely enjoyed playing it more on legendary because it made me actually use more of the abilities, because I feel like you wouldn't use some of the abilities as much. Like the shield, I used a lot, which, watching other people's reviews and talks on this game, we were playing it on like normal and heroic, were basically saying that they really didn't use that and they only used the grappling hook. Whereas the shield was very, very useful for me. I used the sensor quite a lot, which is very useful for finding enemies that cloak, like the elites. After they've taken a certain amount of damage, they will cloak. And it's basically, it's not impossible to see them. You might see like a little shimmer of their cloak, but it's very useful to have the sensor to be able to see them. However, the one ability that I didn't use at all was the dodge boost. And there are many reasons for this. One, it's rubbish. Two, the sound effect for it is ear-piercingly loud. Oh my god, that hurts my ears just activating it. And I already have bad ears, I have tinnitus, so I don't want them to get worse. So I did not use that ability at all. I would have liked to have seen more guns, just more new stuff added to the Halo universe. Some more guns, and the guns that they added were not very good. Like the Ravager is pretty bad. There aren't any new vehicles as far as I'm aware. I have played a lot of Halo, but I'm not like a huge fanboy. I don't know all the details, so I don't know if there's a new vehicle or not. The VTOL might be a new vehicle. I can't remember if that was in 5 or 4, but that is the only vehicle that I can think of that was kind of new. Everything else is just the same, carried over from every other Halo. You know, your Mongoose, your Warthog, your Scorpion. It's a shame you can't summon the enemy vehicles at the FOBs. I understand why, but it would have been cool for some variety's sake to like capture capture an enemy base and then be able to like spawn their vehicles for yourself. There isn't much new enemy variety. You have the Skimmers, which are basically like Darksiders angels, and that's about it. There seem to be only 2 types of Skimmers. The ones with the shock rifles, and then the other ones which are like white. I don't even know what weapons they use. You probably won't even know that they're different enemy types unless you looked really carefully. Same with the drones, the Sentinel drones. There are 2 different types, which you probably wouldn't know unless you really checked up close. And the Banished are the same enemies we fought all the time. However, they are still incredibly enjoyable to fight because there is such a vast amount of varieties of them. So many different types of Banished. You know, so many different types of brutes, elites, grunts, jackals, and fighting the Banished is definitely the most fun enemy to fight in this game, and it is what you fight 95% of the time anyway. You don't really fight the Sentinels until very late in the game, and the Skimmers are barely in the game as well. So of course the big new thing for Halo Infinite, the big seller, is the open world, which I was quite worried about because open world games are a dime a dozen these days, and you really need to bring your A game. You need to do something new with it, with an open world, if you're going to do an open world. And I've properly open worlded out at this point. And however, this open world is actually very good. In fact, I would say the open world sections are significantly better than the linear sections of the game. The linear sections of the game were the most boring, tedious parts, and the reason is because they are copy and pasted, literally. They're all underground if it's a main linear mission. Some of the main missions are done in the open world, which are far superior, but the linear underground levels are all copy and pasted. However, sometimes you go through them reverse, like a racing game, as if you wouldn't notice that you're going through the exact same environment. And the level design in these underground environments are boring. It's just corridor after corridor after room after corridor after room after corridor. In most of the linear missions, after you've completed a corridor room, you get a bit of exposition, do another corridor room, more exposition, and it's the laziest way of trying to tell a story, and it all comes at the end as well, in like the final couple missions, and you're just like, oh god, why are you doing this? Thankfully you can just run past it, the exposition. You don't need to stay for it, but it's just so awkward and clumsy having to stand around listening to this exposition that's just been thrusted upon you right as the game's about to end. But the open world stuff is genuinely brilliant. The best open world bits are the purple bases that you see on the maps, and unfortunately these sections also bring the frame rate to a crawl. No matter what settings you're really playing it on, it drops to like the 40s, and I'll go into more about the performance stuff a bit later. But these purple bases on the map are massive. They are massive, and they're so dense. There's so much going on in these bases, and each of them has a unique layout. I wish there was more of them. There aren't really that many. There's like 5 or so, but they are huge. They are big. They all have a unique layout to them and like a unique objective to them, and they're just a lot of fun. You can come at them from pretty much any angle you want. That's one of the best things about this open world. I haven't seen an open world game like this really that lets you take on targets from such a far away distance. It's crazy, and that's probably why the performance is so shaky, is because they spawn in stuff from so far away, but it makes it so you can snipe from like the distant mountains, and it's awesome. It's so cool, and you can really use a lot of strategy. You can really use a lot of tactics. You can come at it from so many angles. You can do so many different things in the combat. You can, just go in guns blazing. You can take out all the snipers around the edges first, and my god, the Jackal snipers on Legendary are dicks. They're the hardest enemies in the game, I would say, in terms of the fact that they just two-shot you out of nowhere, and you won't see it coming, and they're so irritating. But you could take all the snipers out around the edges first. You can take out all the most powerful enemies from afar with snipers, and then go in and melee all like little grunts. Take out the turrets and take them for yourself. Sometimes there are vehicles in there that you can hijack and just smash through everyone. There's just so many ways you can go at it, and these take quite a while, especially on Legendary. If you're playing carefully, these can take like half an hour to do each, so it really feels like you're taking down this huge base. So I guess I should talk about performance now, and it's a really bad PC port, and graphically it's the only impressive part of it is the draw distance, and I'm guessing that is why it has so many performance issues. And it genuinely looks amazing from afar, but only from afar. Up close, it looks like a Xbox One launch game, and that's because it is an Xbox One game. It started development before the Xbox One X was even out, and this is the reason for the graphical presentation, to the point where I still think Halo 4 looks better, but that is a linear mission-to-mission game, so it's kind of hard to compare it to that. If you want to see the launch day disaster, I will link to the video in the description. My god, Yeah, I've never seen something so broken in my life. But once I found out that you could pretty much fix all these problems by limiting the in-game frame rate, things got a lot better, but you still have to deal with a lot of stuttering. The in-game frame rate cap has incorrect frame pacing, so if you want correct frame pacing, you need to lock it to 60 in the game and then lock it to 60 with something like Readon, which then basically gives you a even frame time graph. However, for this video, I left it unlocked just so you could see what the performance was like if it was just untethered. It's all over the place. It really is all over the place. If you're in an enclosed area, you can get, you know, above 60 no problem. If you're doing anything in the open world in battle, it drops to the mid 40s. But the big issue is that there is so much stutter all over the place when you're traveling about, and it really hurts the fluidity of traveling from one place to another, which is one of the most enjoyable parts in this game, is traveling about and preparing to assault a base in like a scorpion. You summon a scorpion from an FOB, and then you travel all the way there. You got the anticipation of, oh god, my tank's probably going to blow up immediately because I'm playing on legendary difficulty, and the tanks blow up immediately, which is a shame. I would like it if the vehicles had the same health on every difficulty, it's just that you died quicker. There is pop-in as you're travelling around, but it's probably got some of the best LODs that I've seen in a game. It's only really noticeable if you're flying around, and you don't really get a vehicle to fly around that much, especially not until late in the game. So as you're driving about, you really won't notice that much pop-in, which is definitely a good thing in my opinion, because we seem to be focused on, oh look at the graphics, they're amazing, and then there's just grass popping in 10 feet in front of you in every game that you play, and it's really distracting and I really hate it. So I really like how there isn't really any pop-in if you're just driving about or on foot. I was one of the people who had this weird HDR issue, and that seems to have disappeared. I don't know why it's disappeared. And a strange thing is, when I was recording the footage for this video, it came back. And I went, oh god, why has it come back? I couldn't figure out why it had come back. But then after relaunching the game a load of times, it went away. They really need a HDR toggle in the menu, and this would fix it for everyone. I don't know why there isn't a HDR toggle. It's quite ludicrous. There's some weird settings menu glitches where half of the settings will just disappear. I don't know why. Sometimes it will take like 10 seconds to actually pause the game properly because it's just getting stuck on something. And the multiplayer runs fine, obviously, because it's not on the scale of the campaign, which leads me to believe that the performance is related to the draw distance. But I was hoping it would run better because of how well the multiplayer ran for me. I can run the multiplayer at ultra settings, maxed out everything, and getting like 80 frames a second. So it's disappointing that that didn't translate to the campaign. So the game took me about... Actually, how long did it take me? I don't know. I'm gonna look. I'm gonna add up all my video hours. So the game took me about 20 hours to complete. However, if you just go for the main missions, I could say you could do that in half the time, probably even less. I was doing a lot of the open world stuff. However, you'll probably do that anyway, because as you're traveling to the next mission, you will just run into the open world stuff organically. And yes, there are a lot of icons on the map. However, it still feels like you're coming across stuff by yourself without just, you know, plopping a marker on the map and traveling to it, which I really liked. A lot of open world games don't have the exploration aspect to them because everything's just pointed out for you on the map. This game, I really felt like I was discovering stuff for myself, and there's definitely lots of little hidden nooks and crannies around the place with some cool enemy fights and just just cool environmental touches that keeps exploring fun as you're travelling to the next mission. To do everything in the game, I would say would take you about 25 hours. Now I was playing it on Legendary, so probably took longer because of that. If you're playing on normal or heroic, I would say, you know, take about 5 hours off that. I have done all of the open world stuff. I've done all the FOB bases. I've done the purple bases. I've killed all the targets. I've helped all the squads. The only thing I haven't done is gone around picking up all the Spartan cores and the cosmetic armory stuff for the multiplayer, but that wouldn't take you very long because it's all marked out on the map for you anyway when you capture FOB bases, so you could probably do that very quickly. So it's like 20 to 25 hours to do everything, which I think is a very good length for a game. I think that's the sweet spot for like any game, really. I think that kind of playtime leaves you satisfied without getting bored, because I was definitely getting a bit bored with just fighting the same enemies over and over again in the same like corridor locations. But that's a bit of talking about Halo Infinite. For me, one of the best games of the year with a really bad story. Didn't want to go into any of the story here because I don't want to spoil anything, really. It's just a bit of talking more about the gameplay and showing you how it's running in the open world. All I can say is that I guess I'm excited to see where the story goes, but I wouldn't get my hopes up because I really don't expect them to deliver on some of the story promises. I'm kind of lost where the story is. If you have a story that goes over the course of like 20 years, it's pretty easy to forget stuff and get lost. You really have to look up stuff and remind yourself before playing to really know what's going on. And the after credits cutscene, I got no fucking idea what's going on there. I'm just confused as fuck. I don't know if I got that because I played it on Legendary. Usually you get a secret cutscene if you play it on Legendary, so that might have been why I got that extra cutscene, but it just confused me even more. And actually, I'm going to talk about a few story elements that I just want to talk about because I'm a bit confused. So go away if you don't want spoilers. Go away, go away, go away, go away, go away. The main bad guy, he keeps coughing, and then it's never brought up again. It seems to point to the fact that he's ill and that he's losing his strength, but then it's never brought up again, and it plays no part in the story, which really confused me. You end up fighting him at the end, and it doesn't seem to have any effect, so I'm very confused. And I've just realised, I think that might have been him in the final cutscene after the credits. Unfortunately, all the brutes look the same. It's not racist, it's just they all look the same. And I can't take it seriously. I'm sorry, I can't take the story seriously. Oh, Master Chief, we will crush you. No, you won't. I've killed so many fucking aliens. I've destroyed everything. How do you think you stand a chance against the Master Chief? You don't. I can't take it seriously. I'm sorry. When a franchise goes on for this long, you can't take villains seriously anymore because of what you've already previously done. It's just so silly. However, I did like the interactions between you and the pilot. There are some very well acted scenes. I feel like they tried to bring some more humanity to Master Chief, tried to make him more human and more relatable, I guess, which you may or may not like. I don't really necessarily care either way, but I think the story's rubbish, but the interaction between the characters is well done. But that is it. That is the end of the video. It's probably a jumbled mess all over the place. I'm sorry. That's how my brain works. It's just thoughts flying off in every direction. Hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye.